I hate people that say they're the top salesman where they come from, because they're not coachable.
If you come into this industry and it doesn't move something on your personal life, then you're not all in.
And it is a whole different ballgame.
There is no 100%. You have to be 150%. You have to be all in.
Jesus, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good, bro. Glad to be here. Yeah. Definitely. It's a great experience for me. So thank you for reaching out. It's definitely good for both, you know?
For sure, dude. And I'm really happy you came, bro, because obviously talking to you before we started here, we have a lot of common ground. So I think the audience is going to be able to benefit tremendously. Just to give you a little bit of an idea what we're going to do today, brother. We're going to walk through your journey from beginning to end. You know, how you got into your industry, the whole nine. And the whole idea is really just to be able to touch somebody who's going through things that you might have gone through or is aspiring to get it either to the insurance industry or any other industry, and really just help them out a little bit, bro. So that being said, brother, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to everybody and just kind of tell us, you know, what you do for a living and how long you've been doing it for.
Look at the camera, or you know, just talk to you. Yeah. I'm Jesus Burga. I've been in the insurance world since 2017. I actually started in the insurance world during the hottest time that there is for our industry, which is the open enrollment period, which is coming up. We're probably going to be living it while we're exposing this to the audience. So essentially, it's the best time to get into the business, and that's when I got around, you know, 2017, November 14th of 2017. Nice. I remember my first day. I was 24 years of age, and I was just a young guy with hopes and dreams, and eventually just took all my experience and all the hustle and everything that I had built up on and kind of just took it from there. And I've been in the insurance industry since. I got licensed officially with US Health, which is the company that I'm contracted with. Yeah. In 2018, so that's when I became an official licensed agent, which was March of 2018. Right. I eventually was able to have some quick accomplishments. In 2019, I was the #1 personal salesman of the entire country for US Health with over $3.3 million in business, backing it up the second year as a team leader and a personal producer, #2 ranked in the country as well. So obviously, my early beginning years, I definitely took the crown, or I put a lot of my attention into the personal sales and building up my name and gaining my experience. And from there, from 2020 to this upcoming time, we had some up and downs. We've been in leadership. We've been out of leadership. That's how I mentioned to you that if you can do it once, you can do it twice. So I had a bit of a hiccup with in the insurance world back in 2020, which was definitely part of my story, I would say. If that 2020 scenario didn't happen, I don't think I'd be the guy that I am today. So sometimes you do have to go through some trouble. You do have to lose it all to develop the next stage or transform into what you are to be. And I think from 2021 to this point on, I've developed and I've devolved to a sales leader, which is what my current position is. And that's what I'm scaling it up to and just trying to take it to the next level and teach, like you said, the people that come behind us, the young people, the people that look for opportunities, let them know that there's always the next stage. And my next stage is hopefully having my own downline, my own agency, and kind of independentize myself a tad bit. And that's the next stage, you know? So,
all right, dude. So let's unpack everything you said, because you said a lot of good stuff that we need to touch on there. But let's just start from the beginning. You've obviously had tremendous success. You saw it pretty early on. You said you were 24, no, when you started? All right, so let's go to 23, 22, 21-year-old Jesus Burga. What were you doing prior to insurance, brother?
At 20, if we go back to 21, which I usually now on Thursdays, I'm the guy that holds the room in our industry. Holds the room is we pretty much spend 10, 15 minutes with the people that are potentially looking for an opportunity, and they get a meet and greet with one of the guys that has been part of the company. So on Thursdays, it's a refresher story that I'm probably going to give you now, because I'll probably have to say it on Thursday. I said it last Thursday, which is telling a little bit about my upbringing, because insurance is just a success, but what you did before insurance is what got you to the point that you are, you know, and being 21 years of age, not that I was lost, but I can tell you this, it was a point where I hit a wall, you know. I was the regular 21-year-old that all he cared about was partying and, you know, being that guy per se at that given time. And the immaturity of things led me into probably losing opportunities that I would have, if I would have taken it with a little bit more maturity, I would have gotten to where I need to be a little bit quicker, but it's all part of the journey. At 21 years of age, I was working at Whole Foods, which was my last job before I got into sales officially, I would say. And what I would do is I would push carts, I'd bag people's groceries, and definitely that was huge. And I also talk about the fact that hospitality is has such a big impact in any entrepreneur, regardless of how you start, cleaning tables, bartending, serving. That communication skill is something we're losing. So having that tool and sharpening that at a young age, as little as it was as bagging groceries and walking someone to their car, I was developing people skills, and eventually that 21-year-old kid had no direction. And that 21-year-old kid, one day Whole Foods let him go after 2 years, and he lost his car. He dropped out of college. He hit that wall that you sometimes need to hit to kind of reinvent yourself and kind of throw yourself out there into the world. And when I hit that wall, I remember my mother telling me, I was 21. I quit FIU. I quit Whole Foods, let me go. I got my car repoed. I was at the bottom you can't go under that, So at that point, my mom's like, hey, go into a job fair. You just got to go into a job fair. You need to get a real job. And if you're not going to go to school anymore, you gotta get a real job. And I remember going to the Don Shula's job fair. I'm very descriptive when I say my stories,
That's what people want to know.
I park up at Don Shula's, and I'm wearing my stepdad's suit. Now if my suit's not fitted, I don't wear it, So, but I'm wearing my stepfather's suit, and I'm all baggy, and I'm like, I feel a little awkward, but I'm just remembering my Spanish mother's voice saying, you better get a job. And I'm just like, I better get in there and get a job. And I walk in there, there's a lot of big companies, a lot of Windows companies were in there, I remember. And then there was Sears. Sears changed my life, I would say. Sears is a company that I always mentioned through my trajectory. Sears got me into the sales world. Sears taught me a lot of structure. Sears taught me a lot of my sales skills, and it developed a lot of my confidence that I have when it comes to making transactions. And Sears was a high pace industry in the department that I was, because what we did was retail warranty. So let's say you bought a refrigerator on Saturday. On Monday, I was calling you. Okay. Our call center was actually out of Doral.
So you worked in a call center?
So I worked at a call center. Yes. From 22 to 24, I worked at a call center for 2 years. And I remember when I first got the job, it was honestly, I just got it because my mother said, get a job, know? And I was just like, all right, I heard sales makes money, like, let me just try it. And I remember being in the training room, and I had like 20 guys in there, and they gave you a binder, and I'm like, oh God, I'm back at school again. And I'm honestly more of a doer rather than a learner on books and things like that. So when I was in the class, I was the worst one in there in the training class. When we went out on the floor to actually go ahead and kind of get things done and performed, all I literally said is, I looked at the guy behind me and I said, okay, he said that, perfect. I just got to say it a little bit better. And then eventually my confidence just built up at 22, 23. Before joining the insurance world, I was doing pretty decent for myself, being 23, 24, making 70 grand a year. I was living out of my parents' extra bedroom. I was doing pretty decent, but I wanted to scale. Sears was going to go bankrupt. And one of the biggest things that transition taught me was to be proactive rather than reactive. Most people, when things falls flat out, you just hop on the next best thing, but I was searching actively, knowing that Sears was not a long-term career, which Sears went bankrupt, I believe, back in 2019. They don't exist anymore. What if I would have kept all my hopes and dreams? I saw a lot of people that had their hopes and dreams in Sears that once that fell flat, I don't know about them anymore. And insurance definitely was one of the things that...
That's interesting, man. Your story is actually, and I'm learning it now, but it's very similar to mine. Yeah, I went to college for a little bit because my mom made me go to school. And I started a little younger. I got hired at Sprint when I was 19.
Wow.
My first commission check was $3,200.
Wow.
I dropped out of school. I never went back.
I bet.
But let's keep talking about you. It ain't about me, but I just wanted to point out that similarity, dope, bro. Yeah, because people ask me, what were you studying? And I'm like, bro, honestly, I think it was international business or something like that. But I went to school because my mom was like, yo, you got to go to school.
And now that you mentioned moms and being skeptical and things like that, I remember when I interviewed for the insurance company, and I went back and I told my mom, mind you, I was working at Sears. I was making 70 grand a year, so I was doing pretty well. So I'm telling my mother, I'm like, hey, I just interviewed at this place. There's guys making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I even seen a guy make $10,000 in a week. And my mom was like, honey, That's BS. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one that makes that kind of money.
My mom was a little similar.
A year later, I remember after the open enrollment that I did as an actual licensed agent in 2018, which was my first one as a rookie. I remember finally going back to her. I remember like it was like the last week of OE, and I was just like, I thought you said these checks weren't possible. I mean, like, here they go, dude. So that's also crazy, dope to go back and say that.
For sure, man. And obviously you had the head start with the call center. I think, that's a huge part of being comfortable.
For sure.
Talking to people.
For sure.
Let's talk about, so you were working at Sears, you saw they were going to go under, you started looking around. How'd you come across the company you work with now?
So connections are everything, the guy next to you may have that next opportunity. The guy behind you, you never know. Opportunity could just present itself, and you just got to be ready. I actually had a buddy of mine, which after Sears, my shift ended at 10 o'clock. So in the insurance world, obviously you work long hours. Right. Some guys that do put in those hours will get out at the same time. So I'd go to the gym at that time, and that friend of mine, his name is Ricky Marrero. Okay. He was doing insurance, right? His older brother, Ruben Marrero, that's who I work with right now. My partner right now is Ruben Marrero, which was more or less also the individual that recruited me as well. And at that time, I was just at the gym, and I remember Sears kept saying bankruptcy, and all I kept thinking is, hey, I need to find the next best thing. Yeah. I thought about being a realtor, and I was just going to be another realtor, and no offense to the realtors, and then he presented, he said, hey, I'm doing insurance. And I actually, the funny thing is is that I would always tell him, I'm like, bro, put me on. Like, I'm not like all my friends. I know A-Rod probably knows some of the guys we used to hang out with back in the days. It's like, you're definitely not going to recommend this guy to go into a corporate America or a corporate world, So at that point, I was just like, man, I've been working at Sears for 2 years, bro. I'm serious. Like, you can't judge a book by its cover, nor can you, even though the people around you do represent somewhat of who you are, it doesn't necessarily define you. And I knew he knew that, and that's the reason why, after knocking on the door so many times, he finally said, back in October of 2017, I remember he said, hey, bro, look, I actually saw the post that his brother, that Ruben, put up with a check, and he's like, so I sent it to Ricky. I'm like, bro, it looks like your brother's looking for some people. Can you put me on? And at that point, you couldn't say no, because now there's proof, as in like they're looking. So, and that was it, man.
His brother's probably happy he introduced you.
Oh, for sure.
All the shit you guys have done now.
Sometimes it's like that,
Before we keep going through the story, bro, I do want to talk about this real estate stuff, because I think we share the same feeling. And no disrespect to any realtors. That's real estate is probably
we want to get in
the majority. But I want to buy it, not sell it.
Exactly.
And I think the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I know how difficult it is right now to be a realtor. I talk to people, I have a lot of realtors that work with us, but I still think that for a lot of people going through what you were going through, and in 2017, real estate is still a career choice that they might consider even stronger than insurance. Part of it, in my opinion, and then I want you to give me yours, is real estate is a little more sexy of a career. Like you get to go to networking events, and you go to big cribs, and you do all this fancy shit that we don't get to necessarily do. I think we've done a good job of trying to make the industry a little more attractive, but nonetheless, our industry it's harder, but it's also more transactional.
For sure.
But I think that's a huge opportunity for even a lot of realtors to get into the insurance industry, and you don't have to stop doing real estate, because you could do both. You're already a 1099 contractor. So what are your thoughts on people that are considering becoming a realtor because they want to work on their own, kind of like what you did back in 17? Why should they consider insurance?
I think that, if you actually look back at it, there's a lot of health insurance agents that were realtors, right? And I think the biggest thing that attracts most realtors, because I work with some of them in my office, some of the biggest names were probably in the real estate industry at some point, is definitely the residual and passive income, right? Excuse my ignorance, but per se, a realtor has to sell a certain amount of volume or houses to make X kind of money, right? What if you got paid that commission that you made off each household every time the tenant or the house owner made a purchase or made their payment? That's how insurance works, right? So that's what's kept me insurance the longest, is the fact that as long as the client makes their payment, I essentially continue to
100%. And
profit.
I think some of the other things, bro, is like, let's just consider we could dump this down even to a more basic level. How hard is it to how likely is it to sell a house before you sell an insurance policy?
I didn't even.
How many states do you work in?
35.
Can you sell houses in 35 states?
Probably not.
Exactly. Can you sell a house over the phone?
Probably not.
Definitely not. Probably you need to go in person. So I think insurance is very cookie cutter, but it's transactional. You know what I mean? Granted, can a house pay you more than a policy? Not always, actually, because some commissions on these policies are extremely high, and without talking about the residual aspect of it. Just talking, I think you guys are on a 6-month advance, if I'm not mistaken. 9-month advance. Okay.
Yeah, you get to kind of play.
Yeah.
with
Okay.
it.
So you still make a good chunk up front when you're writing policy. So I think we don't do a good enough job of explaining our industry to people, because every time I get somebody one-on-one and I break it down, they end up picking insurance. It's just a simpler career path. It's hard, but it's simpler. And I think the factors that can get in your way, we eliminate, right? Which is inventory. We sell to people across the country. You're in 35 states. We're selling 50 something actually, because we sell in Alaska and in Hawaii and even Puerto Rico. So those are the things that I think people are not looking at. And I just wanted to point that out there, because I think that educating people on this is important. We can pull people out of the rat race with a different vehicle. And
I think about the thing about insurance is that there's no seasonality. I mean, you just said it. Our product, our people. Mm-hmm. And in both aspects, whether you're someone that's building a team or whether you're someone that's selling the product itself. I mean, there's always kids being born. There's mm-hmm. always individuals turning 26. Mm-hmm. There's always individuals moving to different states. There's always individuals looking for different career paths. Yep. They lose insurance. We are a recession-proof industry.
Proven time and time again.
COVID didn't necessarily, if anything, it boosted us up.
Because right? Your timeline falls within mine on your blow up, and it's COVID. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So I think that insurance, a lot of people probably have the misconception of not being as attractive of an industry, and they have the misconception of how in reality it works. But when you get really in the deeps of it, mm-hmm. I think that you'll choose insurance for sure. 9 out of 10 times when you compare it. Right? Yeah. When you compare it to any other industry, and it's going back to every point that you made. I mean, the transaction is a lot more simpler with the technology piece of it. I mean, all these CRMs that allow you to reach out 2,500 people with one click. Can you knock on 20? Can you show 2,500 doors with one click? I don't think that's possible. I think the virtual aspect of it as well. It goes hand in hand with our industry. The technology piece of it allows us to reach so many more people. AI now being one nowadays, you have to adjust, you have to evolve, and you have to adapt that. And I think in our industry, that all goes it all goes hand in hand in our ecosystem per se.
Absolutely, you can't have said any better, dude. I mean, this AI stuff, shit is crazy.
Yeah. I use it all the time.
No, me too.
Bro. Yeah, I tell AI, I'm like, make this more persuasive. Like, dude, I'm like, sometimes I'm too direct.
I tell them, make it dumber. You see me. I'll be like, bro, that was too professional. I needed a little dumber. And they'll be like, okay, here's a dumber version. I swear to God, it works out to. And I don't know if you got any space left for any more tats, dude, but you could design tats on ChatGPT. Did you know that?
No. Bro, I mean, I think I've seen it all.
Bro, I've been fucking with that. I have my whole body tatted
I saw your. I
got my back, but I'm working on my arm. I've been designing that shit on ChatGPT. It's changed my life, dude, because
you see it before Tony, right?
And then you tell them I want it to be a little bit more that way, this way, and it does it for you.
It's crazy what technology can do, man. It's insane.
Yeah, well, let's get back on the story. But yeah, I wanted to point that out for real estate, dude, because I think too many people are getting real estate licenses that should be getting insurance licenses.
For sure.
Yeah, and make no mistake, we all need to buy real estate. I think we all agree on that. But yeah, so I don't want to be considered dumb or ignorant.
Then we're gonna go. You're gonna post this thing, and all the realtors are gonna start
disclaimer.
flagging.
We should buy houses. I can even buy properties. So 2017 you went in. 2018 you got licensed. Let's talk about that first OE. I want to talk about that first open enrollment.
As a qualifier.
When you were an agent. No, when you were like. 2018. Actually, let's talk about your first year as a whole.
So.
Because this is hard. So walk me through. Did you think you were going to quit? That's what I want to know.
For sure.
Yeah, walk us through
So I tell people all the time, especially on a new week, I usually get a new agent on the 5th day, right? Okay. So I'll stand in front of them and I say, who here got a deal? And you'll have 1 or 2 guys, 3 guys possibly that will raise their hand up and they said, I got a deal. And I usually say, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Right. Kind of what we spoke about a little bit earlier out there. It could be a fake expectation of what the industry is like, because if it was easy, everyone will do it.
Right.
This is not an easy industry. And when I first came in the industry, I remember I came in on November 14th. The phones are booming. Right. I came into probably at that time, that was within the top 5 divisions in our company. So it was top tier. I was around the biggest hitter. I was in the office with the number one salesman career wise. So the guy has like demolished exactly. Literally, he was the GOAT. Yeah. And when you come in there and you're coming from Sears making $70,000 a year and you know what you can do on the phones, you have to understand, you have to know, and this is to anybody that's new, that you may think you're that guy wherever you come from, but you have to start from zero. You have to start building again, and you start from the legs. You know, even though you think you may have it, you don't, and you have to have that humbleness. And I think that's what it was. Definitely an ego check for me, because I was one of the top guys at Sears. So when I came into U.S. Health, I didn't get a sale within my first 17 days. Wow. So every day I'm in there pounding my head. And I remember when I came in back in the day, they hand you a paper and they're like, you get somebody on the phone, say this. And I'm like, I know how to talk on the phone, but I think I need a little bit more than that.
You don't know the product and shit like that.
And then structures and systems are developed because of stories like this, you know, because I remember Ruben Marrero, after my second week of me not making that first sale, and he finally made a script, a more broken down script, because he was using the script that the office was using. He said, hey, just say what I say. And I said, I mean, this is exactly what I'm saying, but I need to say it how I used to say it at Sears, where I was free, where I felt like that guy, that comfortability sometimes, that comfortability you need. You know, I was too worried about what the guy to the right of me or left was saying. And I tell this to all my new guys, it doesn't matter what the guy to the right of you is saying or left of you is saying, it's you on that phone. So I think that when I let go of that and I reminded myself that, I mean, I've sold before, like I know how to do this, and you know, having the right people around you to build up that confidence again, to take you to that stage where, hey, I can do this. I just need to read this paper like I want to read it. And eventually the results started following that. And I'm not saying that tonality or having the mindset or walking up to the phone and saying I'm getting a sale today is the reason why you're going to get a sale. But mindset is definitely one of the biggest factors that will get you that early success. And I think when I started looking at the people to the right and left of me and just focus and put my head down and practice that script and practice the tonality and dominoes effect after that, once the first one dropped, I think that after my 17th day, on that 21st day where it was my third week coming in, I think my first commission check was $3,500, and I got addicted to the game after that. I mean, it was 35, and next thing you know, December I was booming, and I was blank the first 17 days. So sometimes you just got to stick through it, and if they can do it, why can't you? And that was always my mindset, as in, they're here for a reason. These seats are filled. This guy's making X amount. No way
they're all faking it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just the bottom line, is just believing in yourself and, you know, just getting it done.
So people don't fail in this industry. They just quit before they succeed. That's the first thing. Second of all, that's kind of what I looked at too. I'm like, bro, all these guys are making all this money, and I'm here, so I know they're not lying. Because when you're from the outside, people post a check, is that real, is that not real? But I'm here. I'm like, I see these guys making money. There's no way that they're smarter than me. My story, I believe it or not, our stories are so similar because it's exactly the same thing. Like, I hire people all the time, where you touch on this, that I hate people that say they're the top salesman where they come from, because they're not coachable. And this shit is a whole different ballgame, dude. Like, I'd rather get somebody who's never sold
for sure
than get somebody who is a seasoned salesperson. And it's for that reason, man. But said a few good things there, bro. I think mindset is everything. But what was the hardest? Like, there's got to be, because I think we've all been through this in this industry, bro. The hardest adjusting one, and you talked about ego check, and then did you go through a moment in time where you were second guessing the decision you made, or did you always know this is it, like the entire time?
So I always tell people, if you come into this industry and it doesn't move something on your personal life, then you're not all in. Okay. It's going to shake something up.
For sure.
It's going to shake up the hours at home that that people back at home saw you. Yeah. It's going to shake up some friendships when you have to say no to certain events that they were accustomed to seeing you at. And that's just the change. It comes with the industry. And I think that this is not, I think that the insurance game, when you first get in it, obviously you then develop into different stages of your career. When you first touch the game, you have to be all in.
For sure.
There is no 100%. You have to be 150%. And that's what people need to understand quicker. And if they do that, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for me was letting go of everything that was around me. You know, the distractions of a regular 24-year-old making $3,500 a week. And it's kind of like, you're now this guy that you're the only kid making $3,500 a week. So you have to know how to say no to those things. And the moment that you do, you'll see where you potentially can go. And I did that at the beginning, and I saw a little bit of the success, but it's also what you do with the success with it. Because I can tell you this, those $3,500 started coming in, but 2018, January, February, it was a reality check for me, because when you don't know how to handle the success that comes at such a fast pace, and at Sears, I was making maybe 4 to 6 a month, and I just got handed 35 back to back. I made 7 in 2 weeks. It's kind of like, all right, let's go out, you know.
What are you doing?
And it's kind of that's the mistake that a lot of people make, and that's the one thing that I'm vocal about in my office itself, is be smart with your decisions. Don't think that this is always going to be like this, and necessarily it also taught me that it's not there. OE is all year round, you know. Open enrollment is whoever makes it that season, and that was the biggest mentality change. And going back to touching on the second question that you said, did I ever not think this was for me, or did I always think this was for me? No, because January and February I thought that, okay, well, this is only for a month or two. Now it's that.
What do I do the rest of the year?
And it was a mindset thing, because now I've had my best months in a February, where as opposed to maybe
less competition too. Like, it's all perspective, you know.
And that's in reality that's the biggest thing. I think that there's 2 times in my career where I've probably felt that this wasn't for me, and I realized that it wasn't for me because I wasn't all in. It's just the bottom line of it. And OE sometimes does build bad habits because the business comes so easy. So I started at such a time where I was fruitful, but then again, when the drop was pretty heavy on me, and not being ready and not being fully, I would say, prepare for what is to come in the future. And I think that's the biggest thing, that as more people like yourself that care about the industry and actually get deeper into the business itself, just business in general, not just insurance, you're able to plan ahead for what someone's new to come and the next stage in their career or business can be. And that's what we need, more people like that. We need more people that are teaching other of what's to come, more development, more, like you mentioned earlier, mentorship, more collaborations like you and I are doing. I think that definitely will help the younger generation get bigger, because then again, you can't keep all the info to yourself. That's just selfish.
Dude. And look at our industry now, bro. Like, I mean, people are going to see, obviously, we're recorded, but you don't look like a fucking prototypical insurance agent.
No.
You know, like, man's tatted up to the fucking neck,
you know.
hands.
Hey, you know? Look, I always tell people, if we did a Zoom banking and routing, the lady from Nebraska is not giving
you your
the 63-year-old that just retired, she's not giving me her banking and routing. She's second guessing that.
You know, but and if you go back, bro, you think of an insurance agent as like 65-year-old white male with a baggy suit and a briefcase.
And I tell people, when I started, I was one of the youngest guy in the insurance world. 2017. I mean, 2017. I'm talking about, I was 24 years of age in downtown Las Olas with, there was probably maybe a few Hispanic guys. I mean, age-wise, maybe Ricky Marrero, and then maybe some guys that were kind of getting their feet wet, but. I mean, I've said this plenty of time, but there's a lot of people that after me got probably into insurance because they saw, hey, if this kid can do it,
no shit, yeah, I could do it too.
Anyone can do it, and that's the beauty of it. You know, I always look at that as inspiring. As insurance did allow me to make a lot of things a reality, and I know insurance is not the end game. We talked about that. Insurance is just the opening.
It's our vehicle, right? You know what I mean? And that's what, you know, I'm in the business of people. I tell everybody, man, insurance is a vehicle, you know? So let's talk about people, because I think that's kind of, I would imagine that was the evolution into your career. You broke records selling, you were a top salesman in the company. At what point did you get involved into the leadership stuff and you started recruiting? Like, how did that happen?
I mean, I've always had big influence. I mean, A-Rod, I've partied all over Miami. You know, I've been around. I've met a lot of people. I went to a lot of high schools. I moved a lot, so that makes you build a lot of connections. Broward, Dade. I mean, when people know you, and connections are good. And as little as I thought that maybe the certain things that I was doing, as in having so many friends, my mom would always say, when would it benefit you? Like, what is that going to benefit you? Soccer teams, all the buddies that I made in South Florida playing soccer, a lot of those guys I recruited at some point, you know. I wasn't ready for the recruitment.
I don't think you ever are, bro.
I'm probably not ready right now. You're right. But I wasn't. I think I'm a little bit more suited to maybe guide 100%. them and give them a better book.
And I think, just to make that clear, when he says he's not ready, it means like in a year he's going to be better than he is today. you know, and
oh yeah, for sure.
So
every year you get a better version of me,
yeah.
because if you got me last year, you wouldn't get this guy.
Yep,
you know.
100%.
So I think that leadership, definitely, I've always considered myself a leader within my group of friends, and it's easy to, when you have that kind of influence, to let people try, and maybe even on the field, I was always the kind of guy that would tell my teammates, as in like, you're gonna eat him up, baby.
Right.
You're gonna eat him up. I don't care. He's not better than you. You know, like, and I've just always been that confident. I like to.
Did
I like
background in sports help?
Oh, 150%. Yeah. Sports helps. I mean, I usually look at sports as the same as business. You know, it's the guy that's always training. I mean, at the end of the day, it may not be physical training, but when you're training with maybe a mentor or even conferences.
Development, bro. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Those are the reps you got to put in.
And it's definitely that. And I think that once I got into the leadership side of things, my first leadership experience was back in 2020. And it was at my highest peak of my career, I would say. I was coming right from becoming the number one agent in the company. I had broken records in a week sales that the company had never seen. I was at the top, you know. So building a team was pretty much just replicating myself, but I wasn't ready to handle a team. And as I mentioned to you, in 2020, I had a big hiccup with the company, where essentially a bit of certain things that happened on the back end that eventually came to light early in my career, probably just doing business with the wrong people, recruiting just anyone and everyone, and that's the exposure that you sometimes give yourself when you try to give opportunity to so many people, you know. And one of those guys maybe made wrong decisions, and obviously you learn from them, and eventually it came back down on me, and I actually lost my whole team, and I went back to writing agent. From being at the peak of my career, I was on pace to be the number one sales agent once again, which was the first one in history to ever repeat it. So I was so ambitious about that. And I had the number 2 sales team in the country.
Nice.
But I wasn't the number 1 sales leader. I wasn't ready to be a leader, you know, because I was too focused on the personal things that had to happen for me to talk about the people, for me to become a business person rather than, I'm not saying that I am egotistic, but early in my stages, I care more about my numbers than others' numbers. Now I want to talk to you about the guys that I've been able to develop rather than so much of me, you know. And I was telling the guy, my guy Trudy, I was telling him, I'm only doing this so that the next time the guy that's coming up with me, I can tell him the book print. Hey, contact people that do insurance, do collabs, do these kinds of things. You know, I'm throwing myself in these situations.
This is your definition of top producer in 2018, 2019. That's what you're doing now. Just so you know, you're laying out the same blueprint you did 5 years ago.
But in a different scale.
Yeah, of course, because now you're at another level.
Exactly. And I'm trying to do that, you know, and I think that leading people is not for everyone. And I think that for me, losing my position, losing it all and taking a big hit was definitely part of my story, definitely part of my development, because when I went back to being a writing agent, now I had a training agent. So I went back to being the guy on the desk, being told by someone what to do. Back to entry level, basically. Back to entry level. And I had already all those accomplishments. So imagine what that did to my my pride, my ego, my accolades. You were back to zero. You got to build back up. And at that point, I think that was the biggest switch into me, because I was just like, I was looking at what the person that was leading me at that time, and he did some great things, definitely did some great things. But there were certain things that I was just like, dang, when that was my position, why didn't I do that? Right. If that was me right now, I'd do this.
Hindsight's 20/20, bro. Until you've done it, then you see it differently.
And then while I was an agent again in all of 2021, because it took me a whole year to come back up, I got audited actually by the company in 2020. So that's what happened to me. And I had it bad. I got audited for 45 days, no check, but I still showed up every day, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Because my mom used to tell me there's a saying, el que nada debe, nada teme. Right. So I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong. So I had to provide them with what had given them, you know. So I put my face up there. I told them it is what it is. Whatever their verdict is at the end, it is. And thankfully, there was a spank in the wrist. It was a big spank, I would say. It cost me a couple of, a decent chunk to keep my contract per se. But I think that it was the best thing to happen to me, because I can tell people my experience, tell people what happened to me, and make sure that they make better decisions. And I always tell people, I heard this on social media, but a smart man makes a mistake once and never does it again. A wise man watches a smart man and never does
Makes
it.
a mistake, period.
So, and that's just me. That's me as a leader. Is I want to be the dummy. I want to do the first.
100%.
I want to make a mistake here, so I can tell my guy when he comes and do his podcast, hey, maybe don't move the chair around so much. Like make sure you're still.
And that's just he's doing a good job too. He hasn't.
And that's just kind of the way that I see things is just learning throughout others to make sure that I can provide that info to everyone that comes after me, and that's what's made me. The leader I am today. The one thing that I pride myself on is being coachable. And you can learn anything from anyone, and that's one of the things.
And I think you're a rare breed, bro, because top producers, salespeople don't necessarily make good leaders. A lot of them, I mean, you said it, because it's me. For one, and two, you also, and I don't know if this happens to you, maybe it did, but you start looking for people that are as intense and as passionate as you are. And
you don't find them
at all. So then you're frustrated.
And that's where I
talk to shit to Jocelyn all the time. My sister, she'd be mad as fuck at people. I'm like, bro, you can be mad. You're in a way better position than they are for a reason. You're gonna learn how to play the game, teach, educate, and they'll either get in line or the business will watch them out.
You could only imagine, and with the way that I am, man. I mean, shoot, I have some stories that probably I can't even say on camera because when you have that intent and that love for the game, and you feel like people can't match, and you're just kind of drive yourself like, dude, I did it.
Now.
Like, it's right in front of you.
You got it easy now, right? Now you can click a button. I was fucking dialing from a sheet of paper. But it's just kind of like the progression of the business, bro. I think understanding that people are not like you, you do a better service to them. Because, bro, I've had people that I thought were not going to make it and end up being freaking killers. And then you get really sharp people that you're like, bro, this guy's going to freaking crush this. And, 6 weeks in, they're out. And they're just out. I think being humble, all the things you talked about, bro. So kudos to you, bro, because a lot of top producers don't have what it takes to lead.
And I think that what helped me was the sack.
And sometimes it's what it takes, bro.
When you lose it all,
got kicked in the teeth, bro.
When you go back down to losing it all, you have two choices. I had two choices to make. Either I walk out the back door, or I put on my shirt and tie and get back to it. And that's what I did.
Swinging, bro.
I said if I did it once, I just got to do it again, but I got to do it right and the smart way. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. And it was just.
That's why you're killing it, bro. Because, I remember I tell all my guys when I got my first policy here, I remember, you're going to have to take me out in the stretcher because I'm not quitting the shit. And, bro, I could tell you stories for days, too, about bad shit happened to me. Not just losing my team, but, bro, I've paid this year $250,000 in debt that was not mine. Like, a lot of fucked up shit that if things didn't work out the way they have, I probably wouldn't be here. But, one, I did shit the right way, which I think is why we're so intense with people when you see them, you're handing them all the structure, and they're like, oh, but I have to go fix my car on a Tuesday. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But the common denominator between every person that I know that's successful, not just in insurance, period, is they all have stories like yours where they failed, they hit rock bottom, and instead of quitting, they doubled down and they just went back at it, dude. And honestly, you reach more failures, different scales of failures. Maybe it doesn't mean you're losing everything, but it means that you take a big hit or things are going to happen, bro. And it's how do you respond? Back in the day, they had that D-Wade commercial that you fall 7 times, you get up 8. I think that's what it was.
I love that.
You guys saw his statue?
It looks awful, but it doesn't look like D-Wade, but we'll take it.
But I think that's kind of like the narrative of everybody who does well here, bro. So, all right, so you're leading a team how big?
Right now, we're about 55.
Okay. You're developing leaders under you every year?
Yeah, I have 4 leaders right now under me. Potentially at the end of the year, we'll be promoting one directly under me. And that's the name of the game, just teaching individuals and providing more opportunities. So I have another challenge upcoming, which developing leaders is definitely a totally different challenge because they may have a different vision that you do. They may have different characteristics than you do. And you have to adapt to people, I run 4 sales teams, and I can tell you this. All 4 of them have different dynamics. All 4 of them I have to approach at times a bit different. Yeah. And all 4 of them, with them, there's different personalities with those 4 teams. So on one team, I may be a rocker, and on this other team, I'm into sports. And with this other team, I have to talk about anime. And that's just the beauty of working with people that you just have to adapt to your leaders. And I think shout out to them. They're doing a phenomenal job. And I'm proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish because we hit a plateau where I didn't see any more growth in U.S. Health. I didn't see any more growth where I was at, and I think we've all reached at some point that stage. And even in the leadership aspect of it, I felt that way. And I think that having that support from my leaders is the one thing that, because you've been through, you're like, when it's my time, I'm going to make sure that they feel like X. And that's just what we have to remind ourselves too.
And this is strictly for anybody who wants to join your team, but what is, 2 questions, the most money you've ever made in a year? 1, and 2, the money that your top agent this year is going to make. Writing agent.
The most money that I've made in a year.
Yeah.
I would say that this is my best year. This is my even when I was a top producer, I did pretty well.
Yeah,
but
you multiply yourself, bro. It's a beauty.
I think that this year I'm close to anywhere from north of 700. So I'm around there. And then my highest earning agent was probably writing agent. I would say anywhere from 150 to 200. I have leaders on pace to make over 250. Obviously, that including some personal business, skin in the game for a little while, but definitely looking to scale
money
that.
In their account, bro. Yeah.
That's really it, man. It's just, I mean, if you would have asked me this question maybe 4 years ago, I would have probably told you this number, but in half, because we had plateaued. 2021 was a tough year for me and for everyone in our industry, because at the end of the day, you got to have that guy that is the engine in the office. And at some point, I was that guy, and when that happened, it took the era. It took a little bit of the new school to come in and kind of somebody take the crown, and they have to be the new engine. So reinventing yourself, the new blood always tests the old blood. So essentially, there's always going to be a new guy that's going to come in here and do big things and crack $250,000 in their first year. That's definitely possible. I've seen it. So I think that the ceiling is what you make it, and for the guy that I shouted out right now that's making $250,000, let's make it 350. Let's make it more, and that's just the name of it. Is just if the bar was here at some point, let's bring it up for the next generation. You've been at this
17, 3, 4. You've been at this 7 years, 6 really, if you count when you actually got licensed. Yeah. I don't know if you know, but you're top 1% in the country in earnings.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's part of my recruiting pay.
Yeah, that's top 1%. If you're making over $500,000 in the top 1%, and it's crazy because that 1% is very steep. So then you got to kind of break down the percentage within that first 1%, but still 1% of the nation.
For sure.
Oh, well, no, age-wise, you're like probably top 0.10%, and that's because all these 20-year-olds are getting rich by fucking streaming things that don't make sense to me, but nonetheless, good for them. But you've done that in 7 years, bro, and I know people that take some years, even business owners, because of the lack of technology or whatever the case may be, that have been in business for 30, 40 years and never cracked that number.
And what I usually tell people, like, if you don't do it right, then you have to do it twice.
Yep.
I had a guy come in. I had a guy come in 2 years ago that changed my mentality when it comes to the insurance game. He told me, what took you 5 years to do, I did it in 2. And only because of one reason alone, is because I let my money work for me, and you haven't. And that's the one thing I'm getting to right now.
Invest back in your business, bro.
And talking to you and being around this environment, I'm just even opening more. I've already been open to that. I've thrown from a year ago, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, what have you really invested into the business, to now, like, you got to let your money work for you. And the best vehicle to have it is in the insurance 100%. World. And I 100%. Usually say that my biggest investment is probably my sales, my team, my people that I work with, and why not give them the opportunity to explode. And
well, I'm gonna tell you this one thing, right? Somebody taught me this, and I've ran with it ever since. My clients are not the insurance clients. My clients are the agents. So if you treat your agents like your clients, which is the bloodline of any business, then you'll start looking at money differently. Because you would probably spend a $25 gift card for Starbucks to retain a client that bought an insurance policy.
For sure.
But you won't, sometimes leaders don't want to take their agents out to lunch. So stupid little things as reinvesting in your team, what we were talking about earlier, if you're shooting content, having your top producers get in front of the camera, how much it costs to shoot content. It's even if they have the money, it's hard to kind of like cough it up. You give it to them for free because they're the ones that are coming through for you. Those are the things that enable you to start, really developing people and really building your brand. Which you're doing a great job, bro. Because like you said, everybody's watching. You know, like we kind of know each other's story and we hadn't met until today.
Yeah.
And dude, you're making a freaking killing because of the way that you guys work. I'll tell you this, bro. Now I talk to Alex about this all the time. The most impressive thing to me about the way you guys work is you get 24-year-old Jesus to get on the phone for 14 hours a day. You know, and I'm in the industry, dude, and it's hard to dial 14 hours a day. It's really hard. I actually started setting door-to-door, setting appointments going in person, which was a blessing because I don't even know if I would have made it
on the phone.
Dialing 14. I hated the phones. And I learned to see the money behind the calls rather than looking at the phone as a task. But yeah, bro, that drive time to me was like my blessing because it allowed me to disconnect out of the office. And obviously we're all virtual now and things have changed. But the way you guys run it, it's fucking crazy, man. You walk in there. I met some kids that worked with somebody we spoke about earlier. I don't want to say any names. And they had all, worked with your company. That was their background. And I went into their office and it was probably two 25-year-olds fucking jacked, literally arguing with each other about who was making more calls. And I'm like, bro, where do you find these people?
That's really how it goes, man. They're competitive.
I made 400, I made 3. I'm like, what the hell? About dials?
There's some guys in there, man. Dialing sucks, but it pays the bills. Shout out to them. You know, that's how you got to start. Yeah. Sometimes that's how you got to start.
Yeah. And I think that's the reality, right? Like if instead of us lying to people, being like, "This is fun," hey, ain't nobody want to call, bro. But if I told you I'm gonna pay you $20 a month to be on the phone all day, you probably do it
for sure.
So look at it that way. That's how I convince myself to do things. People will tell me I don't want to drive to houses. I'm like, bro, if I tell you I'm gonna give you $5,000 today, all you gotta do is drive to these 11 addresses. Whether they're there or not is irrelevant. Because people were complaining about no-shows. Like, I drove to this person's house and they weren't there. Like, just look at the end result. If I tell them I'll pay you 5 Gs in a day to drive to 11 addresses, if they're there, good, help them. If they're not, just keep moving. Would you tell me, would there be a problem with that? No. Remove your emotions out of it and just go through it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, obviously, controlling your emotions.
And I think going back to your point, it's also because we've replicated. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we want to make sure that no one's a slave to the system.
Right.
Like even me myself, we were talking about it. Like I panic when I'm off the phone sometimes, and I'm just now getting used to delegating and more or less being off the phones and being out of my office a little bit more, and just going in there. I read a book that is Buy Back Your Time, which also opened up my mind to that when it came to just doing the things that your high value tasks,
right.
And my high value tasks are training, developing, providing my experience to my sales force as well as my leaders, and my experience. I know how to sell. I can sell. So why would I stop doing something I'm good at? Mm-hmm. My priority is obviously the development piece of the sales force and my leaders, but that's still a passion for me. Right. Where if it's easy and I'm effective and I'm accurate at it, why would I not take advantage of it? So I always make time for both. And the phones is not sexy, but if you develop the skills pays the bills. So
100%, bro. And I mean, you didn't go to school, neither did I. So this is what we got. This is what we got.
This is it, man.
All right. Why should somebody get into insurance, and why should somebody work with Jesus Burga?
I think someone should get into insurance because it changes lives, man. I mean, it makes your dreams a reality, and like we said, it's the right first vehicle. Right. Let's put it that way. After that, you can upgrade,
right,
if you want to, but some people stay true to their first vehicle.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that you can find the 24-year-old kid and make him a superstar as long as he has the non-negotiables, right? So essentially, if someone has the work ethic, the commitment, the moral compass that it takes to be in an industry like this, they'll succeed. I don't think that there's a secret to our success. It's just doing right, being surrounded by the right people, putting your head down, work, and believe. You have to believe. If you don't believe that you can make it, you won't make it. So I think that the insurance game as more people get into it, and we see how much diversity there is in the insurance game. Most of the people that are successful, like you said, have their same mindset, and it's just replicating that to the people that are coming in, and those will be the future of this industry.
Sure. And then why you?
Why me?
Why you? Why you're a team specific, and not just your company? Why you guys? Yeah.
Why me? Because I'm committed to anything I do. Mm-hmm. So I think that I'm committed to my agent. I'm committed to my leader. I'm committed to the industry. I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to the people around me. And you do anything like you do everything, you know? So anything I do it to the fullest. I don't have anything. And that's why I think that the success that has brought, that I've been able to have is because of the fact that I don't go halfway. Anything I do, I go all the way. And I think people see that. I think people follow that. And people appreciate that because there's a lot of things that social media sometimes doesn't show. Oh. There is no easy way out. Yep. Hard work is going to have to be put in. And that's just the bottom line of it. And I want to be the definition of always that, you know, yep. Being able to let people know that you have to continue to develop. You have to continue to get better. There's never a ceiling. There's always the next stage. And that's why Jesus Burga. Yep. And that's why only the committed, because you have to live your life committed to anything.
I love the name, dude. Your commitment is remarkable, pun intended. Your success speaks for itself, obviously, dude. I've gotten a lot from this 45 minutes, hour that we've been. I know we got to wrap up. I think that's my cue to wrap up. But, dude, you're making a freaking killing. You're impacting a lot of lives. I know you know it, but I don't think you know to what extent. And for us that we look at it from the outside, I will tell you that you're changing a lot of lives. I see your team. I see how close you guys are. I see the guys that are making moves and growing. So, dude, just keep killing it, man. I think the future is, sky's the limit, dude, and even beyond that. So, appreciate you jumping on, bro. We got to do this more often. I think, maybe once a year as our businesses keep evolutionizing, we got to keep kind of catching up. But, man, you spoke really well. I think everybody would agree. And, bro, thanks for jumping on.
I mean, I think thank you guys for the opportunity. Like I said, this is actually my first podcast. People have told me, hey, you should get out there. You should get out there. Talker, and I'm like, I need to get out there with someone that is serious. I'm not going to get into a podcast that doesn't fit what I'm trying to portray. So I think that you were the right guy. So thank you for thinking of me. I think that timing is everything, and I think this couldn't have came into my opportunity at a better time. You see me on social media. I see you. I'm trying to emulate a lot of the things that you do, and we're looking at you as well. And we see all of your success, A-Rod, yourself, everyone. You guys are doing big things, and you guys are inspiring people as far away as some people don't even see it or show it. You guys are also an inspiration to all of us. So let's keep collabing, and hopefully we can do this again.
For sure. Thank you, bro.
For sure, brother. Hey.
Good shit.
Yo, my boy. Hey, yo, your first line is man, you killed it. You gave me, yeah, bro. You might be me. I have a lot of one-liners too that I be dropping at people, and I have them all.